Now that was the Derek Carr we know and love here at Endgame. But look, he wasn't the only major bust in week 3. No, there were plenty of them. So let's talk about each and every single one of them. I'm going to let you know, should you or should you not be panicking? And of course, we always start with Thursday Night Football, the Jets and the Patriots. And boy, if you had Ramondre Stevenson, your week did not get off to a good start. 23 yards plus a fumble. 0.3 fantasy points in most leagues. Either way, he absolutely killed your week before it even got started here. But look, Ramondre Stevenson is still going to be the workhorse running back here. Game script got away from him. The fumble is just one of those games. There's no panic here on Ramondre Stevenson. I'm only going to set it at a 4. Now, in that same game, Garrett Wilson found the end zone, but still only 5 catches for 33 yards. I mean, he did have 9 targets, but it looked like multiple times he had a deep ball shot with Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers chose not to throw it. I don't know if this is going to continue to be a thing, but you might have to be a little worried here. We haven't seen a big game from Garrett Wilson yet, but at least he did find the end zone. He did have 9 targets. I'm not worried about Allen Lazard. Again, I'm only setting the panic level to a 4 with Garrett Wilson. Don't do anything crazy here. And then Sunday, we saw the Eagles at the Saints, and we did not see 2 great quarterback performances here. Let's start with Jalen Hurts. I mean, he was pretty good. He was okay, but another interception, a fumble here. This has been the big problem for Jalen Hurts. These turnovers, even going back to last year. Look, he's still great in fantasy because what he can do with his rushing upside, his potential to score touchdowns. But these turnovers, man, we need to see these things get reduced here. But still, Jalen Hurts is going to be fine. He's going to be fine for fantasy. Only putting the panic level at a 3 on Jalen Hurts. And now I do have to mention Devonta Smith. No, not because he was bad. He was very good in this game, but because he did leave with a concussion, or at least was being evaluated for a concussion, which means he could miss next week. But look, there's no panic here with Devonta Smith. Don't worry about it. Like, oh my gosh, he's hurt. If it's a concussion, he'll probably at most miss 1 game, and then he'll be back. He's looking great. He's looking fine. Panic level, only a 1. And then Derek Carr, the guy who looked like potentially the MVP through 2 games, came crashing back down to earth this week. 7.9 fantasy points. I did urge caution with him. Now, I will admit, I said, yes, if you're going to stream a quarterback, he's your best option. You got to keep rolling with him. But, people were asking us, like, stud quarterback or Derek Carr. It's like, oh, it's still Derek Carr. And now you see what I mean by it's still Derek Carr here. So, look, the Saints offense crashed back down to earth. Derek Carr crashed back down to earth. It is what it is. But I'm only putting the panic level at a 5 here because, really, are you relying on Derek Carr every week? I sure hope not. Texans went to Minnesota and did not win, but you may actually be relying on CJ Stroud every week in your fantasy league, and it may not be going well for you. I cautioned this in the offseason. I said, hey, look, I don't think CJ Stroud was as good as people think last year in fantasy. Look, taking nothing away from him, he was great in real life last year, but, in fantasy, he's just going to be one of those guys. I think this is what he is. He'll have some very good games going forward. I'm not, freaking out about CJ Stroud here or anything, but he's going to have games like this because he can't give you that rushing. He's not going to run in many touchdowns. So if he's not out there throwing for a ton of yards, a ton of touchdowns, you're probably not going to be too excited by CJ Stroud. That being said, the panic level is only a 4 here. He's still going to be fine. Don't freak out and drop him or anything. CJ Stroud will be fine. As will Nico Collins, who also crashed back down to earth this week. Look, he wasn't terrible. 4 catches, 86 yards, but some of that came in garbage time. They tried to get him like a garbage time touchdown, but despite all that, I am no panic at all here on Nico Collins. One of those days, one of those games, panic level is a 1, just move on. And then in almost certainly the biggest upset of the day, the Broncos went into Tampa Bay and took down the Buccaneers, and Patrick Surtain took down Mike Evans. 2 catches, 17 yards, no touchdowns here, only 3 targets. Look, we got a lot of questions about Mike Evans. And we said, look, it could be a bad Mike Evans game, but we also did say we feel like you just got to start Mike Evans. The upside is too huge. It didn't hit this week. It was Pat Surtain. I'm not really worried about this at all. Panic level, only a 3 on Mike Evans. There are much, much better days ahead for Mike Evans. But I am starting to get a little worried about Rachaad White because for the first time all year, he started to lose significant work to Bucky Irving, not just in the ground game, but in the receiving game as well. And he has not been very good. 6 carries, 17 yards, 5 catches, 18 yards, only 8.5 fantasy points. And Bucky Irving was better than him. He just was. I still think at some point we are going to see Bucky Irving get more and more work in this backfield and become the RB1. So Rachaad White, I'm pretty nervous right now. I'm putting the panic level at a 7. Packers took on the Titans for the Malik Willis revenge game, and it was not really any kind of game for Josh Jacobs here. 14 carries, 43 yards, a catch for 5 yards, no touchdowns, 5.8 fantasy points. This is not the same Josh Jacobs we saw last week when he handled 30-plus carries, but the Packers didn't need him to this week. Malik Willis was actually good. He was throwing the ball pretty well, running pretty well. So, again, I have no panic here on Josh Jacobs. Jordan Love should be back next week. Things will be fine for Josh Jacobs. Panic, only a 3. And then just when I bought into Tony Pollard, he does this. Why? Why Tony Pollard? 6 carries for 14 yards, 3 catches, 15 yards, 5.9 fantasy points. This is a great spot against a Packers run defense. I don't know. I still think Tony Pollard will be fine. Tyjae Spears still hardly touched the ball. It's still his backfield. Better days will be ahead. I'm only going to put the panic level to 5 for Tony Pollard. I mean, it is what it is, I guess. And then my biggest regret of week 3 was telling anybody to start Calvin Ridley, because honestly, I did not feel good about Calvin Ridley this week. I felt like he was living off of like smoke and mirrors. When you looked at his underlying metrics, it's like his target share isn't very high. His first read share isn't very high. He's just getting really lucky. Well, that luck ran out this week. 1 catch for 9 yards, no touchdowns. And we actually saw DeAndre Hopkins get more involved in this offense. Look, if DeAndre Hopkins is going to get healthier and now you're going to have to compete with him and Tyler Boyd and Will Levis throwing ridiculous passes, yeah, Calvin Ridley, look, you're not probably counting on Calvin Ridley to carry your fantasy team, but you can't feel good either. Panic level, a 6. Bears went to Indy, and we finally saw Caleb Williams look like the number 1 pick. I mean, yeah, there were still some mistakes here, but so many great plays. Unfortunately, that did not carry over to DeAndre Swift. Despite playing a defense that had given up 150 rushing yards to a running back in each of the first 2 games, he had 20 rushing yards on 13 carries. Now, he did have 22 receiving yards on 2 catches. There is that, but this is not what you're looking for. I don't even know what we do with DeAndre Swift. I cannot start DeAndre Swift. I guess you just got to put him on your bench. Hope it gets better. Panic, absolutely a 9 here. And now I called Anthony Richardson a buy low, but I'm starting to get a little nervous about Anthony Richardson because the turnovers are insane. Another 2 interception game after a 3 interception game last week. And really what's concerning here is 24 rushing yards. Like, where is this massive rushing upside? What is going on with Anthony Richardson? Look, better days are almost certainly ahead here for Anthony Richardson, and he should, I would think, start running more, but man, you got to be a little bit worried right now. I'm putting the panic level at a 6. And you also got to be worried about Michael Pittman. I mean, it was okay, 4 catches, 36 yards, but like that's not what you want for a guy you probably drafted in round 3. And really, he hasn't paid off this round 3 ADP even close this year. And like the Colts aren't throwing it a lot. I mean, even though Anthony Richardson isn't running, they're still not throwing a lot. It's like a lot of Jonathan Taylor, a lot of turnovers. Yeah, I do not feel good about Michael Pittman at all right now. Panic level is a 7. Chargers at the Steelers, and we finally saw J.K. Dobbins crash back down to earth. But look, there's reasons to not panic here. I mean, we knew it was a tough matchup against the Steelers, but he had 15 carries for 44 yards, 3 receptions for 10 yards, and he was clear and away ahead of Gus Edwards finally in this game as the true RB1. I'm only going to put the panic level at a 4 for J.K. Dobbins because this was a tough matchup. But if he's going to be the clear lead back in this backfield, better days are certainly ahead. Don't freak out. Don't think it's over. He'll be fine. Panic level of 4. And then George Pickens continues to do George Pickens things, which is just be kind of frustrating for fantasy. I mean, 5 catches, 57 yards. He didn't kill you, but he didn't help you really either. But this is George Pickens. This is what he's going to be in this Steelers offense. You can't be panicked. It's what you signed up for. So panic level of 5. Let's just move on. Dolphins at Seahawks, and I don't know if I can say the same thing for the Dolphins pass catchers, because look, it's one thing when we sign up for Skylar Thompson, but we didn't sign up for Tim Boyle. We saw Skylar Thompson leave this game with an injury. We may be staring down Tim Boyle for the next start, and Tyreek Hill, 3 catches for 40 yards in this game. I mean, that almost feels like a miracle, honestly, that he even got that much. I think the panic level has to be sky high, but only until Tua comes back, and that's the key here. All signs are pointing to Tua being back in 3 more weeks after his IR stint. So look, it may not be fun for the next few weeks. Maybe you even consider benching Tyreek Hill depending on who you have. But once Tua comes back, it'll be fine. So I'm only going to put the panic level at a 5 here because it's not like he has to play with Tim Boyle all season long. And same thing with Jalen Waddle. He had 1 more catch than Tyreek Hill, but only 26 yards. But again, Tua will be back probably in 3 more games. So again, I put the panic level just at a 5 here. You're just going to have to ride it out. Maybe you got to ride it out with Waddle on your bench, but it's fine. Tua will be back. And I'm going to put the panic level a little bit lower for Devon Achane. I mean, 11 carries in this game, 3 catches. No, the production wasn't there, and it is going to be tough with Tim Boyle, but I mean, the Dolphins obviously look at this guy as a workhorse running back. They trust him, and that's all we were looking for from this guy. No, we haven't seen as many huge explosive runs, but that's to be expected. But look, when Tua gets back, it's going to be fine. Panic level only a 4 on Devon Achane. And then the JSN Week 2 breakout came to a screeching halt in Week 3. Only 3 catches for 39 yards. I was a little worried about this, but I was also bought into it, like thinking that was the breakout. Maybe it's just going to be like this. Maybe he'll have these random big games, and then he'll have these games where he does nothing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that year 2, complete breakout is coming. There's still time. I'm going to put the panic level at a 6 here, I guess. Panthers at the Raiders, and we once again saw bad Davante Adams. But look, this is what you're going to get in this offense. He did have 9 targets, but only 4 catches for 40 yards, no touchdowns. And this is just how it's going to be with Adams. And it's really hard when he has a game like Week 2 to not start Davante Adams. But you have to accept that this is always a possible outcome on any given week, even though they were getting crushed by the Panthers and having to throw it a ton. But still, it's Davante Adams. He'll be fine. I'm only going to put the panic level at a 5 for Davante Adams. And rookie tight end Brock Bowers kind of crashed back down to earth this week. Only 4 targets, 3 catches, 41 yards, 7 fantasy points. But look, he's a rookie. He had a down game. It happens. There's nothing to panic about here. Panic level on Brock Bowers, only a 3. Now, panic level on Zamir White has to be through the roof. I mean, 10 carries for 34 yards against the Panthers. No catches in this game. And worse, for the second straight week, Alexander Mattison got the goal line carry. He couldn't even put up yards against the Panthers, not even getting the goal line carries. That's it. Done with Zamir White. I think I probably said this like a week or 2 ago, but this is it. This is officially done with Zamir White. It's a 10. You can drop him. Lions at Cardinals, and we saw Sam Laporta not only once again struggle, only 2 catches for 36 yards, but we also saw him leave with what looked like an ankle injury, not sure yet. But look, even before that, he wasn't really lighting it up, and I don't know if he is going to really light it up this year. And now you got to worry about a potential ankle injury, maybe missing time. I mean, this guy hasn't even been good. I'm going to put the panic level at a 6. Sure, he'll probably have some nice games. He'll still be okay, but I don't think you're getting what you paid for with Sam Laporta. And the year 2 breakout for Jameson Williams also came to a screeching halt this week. Only 3 targets, 1 catch for 9 yards. I told a lot of you to start Jameson Williams. I'm sorry. I thought it was here. I thought he'd have a big game against his Cardinals secondary, but look, it's one game. It happens. Yeah, it sucks that it happens, but it happens to everybody. Not panicking here. Panic only going to be a 3 on Jameson Williams. I think he'll still be fine. And there's no panic on James Conner despite only having 25 total yards and 1 catch and no touchdowns. Like we said, this is a tough matchup. This Lions run defense is legit. But still, James Conner's going to be fine. Again, it's just one of those weeks. Sometimes guys bust on a week. It happens to almost everybody over the course of the season. Don't panic on James Conner, only a 3 as well. And then though the Broncos pulled off the biggest upset in week 3, the Rams might have pulled off the biggest comeback. What a gutty win by the Rams, really with nobody on this offense. Now granted, it was against the 49ers, who also were missing a lot of pieces on offense, but still a great performance by the Rams here. But Rams players, yeah, nothing to panic about there. But let's talk about the 49ers players. Let's start with Jordan Mason. Not his best game so far, but look, 19 carries, 77 yards, 2 catches, 11 yards. Okay, he didn't score, but that you'll take this. 21 touches, almost 100 yards. You can't be upset here at all. I mean, yeah, it wasn't a big fantasy day, but he's going to be fine. Panic only a 3 here. But maybe, just maybe, we got to worry a little bit about Brandon Ayuk. I mean, he did have 10 targets, but only 5 catches for 48 yards. Less than 10 fantasy points again for the 3rd straight games against the Rams, with Juwan Jennings just destroying this defense out there. But again, it's Brandon Ayuk. I'm going to believe in the talent. I'm going to trust that he's going to get better. Better days are ahead. I would have liked a much better game here. He should have had a much better game. He didn't. Panic level, only a 5 for Brandon Ayuk. Ravens went into Dallas, and Dallas almost said hold my beer to the Rams with an amazing comeback. Fell a little short, but there are some players we got to talk about for fantasy. To start with the Ravens side, we got to start with Zay Flowers here. Only 4 targets, 3 catches, 20 yards after coming off 2 really good starts to the season. But again, it happens. This is a weird game. Like, Derrick Henry ran wild on this defense. They really didn't need to throw a lot until kind of the end when the Cowboys were starting to put some pressure on him. So there's no panic here on Zay Flowers. He's going to be fine. Panic level, only a 3. Now, I can't say the same thing about Mark Andrews. 1 target, no catches. That's zeros across the board for Mark Andrews. Look, last week felt like a bit of a bounce back, but man, after week 1 and now this, you definitely got to be nervous here. I got to put the panic level at a 7 for Mark Andrews. I'm not saying bench him just yet, but another game like this, and we might have to think about it. Then there's CeeDee Lamb, only 4 catches for 67 yards on 7 targets, no touchdowns, but again, it's CeeDee Lamb. It's going to be okay. There is absolutely no panic here. He's going to be fine. Panic level is only a 1. So there you go. There are my takes on the biggest busts of week 3. But look, you need more than this. We got you covered with everything you need this week. Start sits, booms, waiver wire. You can find it all as the week goes on in our week 3 playlist right here.